It was the sort of dark that felt crawled upon and tight, like worming through close branches. And then the street lamps popped up gold and paged all kids to return home. But Chuck had other plans. Those boys down the street swiped their net up and raced inside. In all of the neighborhood houses, in the half-hypnotized state of suburban mundanity, people drew their blinds. Even the Warrens joined them. They didn't recall that Chuck was on the stoop and assumed he was already tucked away in his room. Doors closed, windows were covered, and it was as if every house became a solitary fortress. Chuck Warren was on the outside, where anything might happen to him. He understood that, but he was used to being ignored. The entire town of Bridlington was minding its own nightly business when Chuck Warren shot to his feet and righted his bike. He pulled his helmet off the driveway and strapped it on, rustled in a small hedge to find the flashlight he'd hidden earlier, and weaseled it between the helmet strap and the side of his face. It was loose. He wished he had duct tape, but asking his dad would have given him up. He was far smarter than that. He swung onto his bike while the summer air hummed and a few small-town stars popped out above him in the impossibly wide sky. Chuck lifted his light-up shoe onto the pedal, heaved forward, and sped off down the driveway to carve out into the empty road, racing for the center of town. His face was pale like the dead, but that Chuck Warren smile was back, despite a cold, dripping feeling down his spine. Maybe Chuck knew something was off that night. Maybe he felt something keeping pace with him as he rode for the center of town. He decided to chance it for one good summer. Chuck broke out into the gasping expanse of Main Street, every boutique and shop already locked and abandoned to let him ride straight out to his destiny. He heard a door close, and he slammed his bike to a nearly somersaulting stop on the corner while the singular streetlight in all of town turned red. He turned his head and saw the diner just 4 shops away. Miss Huang, the owner and his next-door neighbor, was still locking up. Chuck held his breath and watched her balance her flip phone against her ear while she fumbled to turn the keys. "I'll be home soon," he heard her say. The key fit, and she started to turn toward Chuck before he could back his bike up or race off. "No, I know. She turned, and though the gold light and dark shadows made her face eyeless and ghoulish, he knew she'd seen him. Chuck flashed ice cold, waiting for her to call him over or walk him home or do anything else he thought an adult might and probably should. She raised her hand to him, cordial, but without much intention. He didn't return the gesture, but he knew it didn't matter. She'd only done it to be polite, like a reflex that she seemed hardly aware of. "I'll be home in a bit," she said into her cell, and she bustled off to the parking lot behind the diner. "We can talk about it then." Then she was gone. Chuck wheezed out a shaking breath just as the light above him turned to green. He started off again, barreling east. Sometimes it was helpful that people really believed in the safe haven of a small town. Chuck zipped past the tiny movie theater, the coffee shop, the Dairy Queen. He passed the last intersection, and Main Street tapered into a lonely, tree-lined highway with scattershot street lamps all flickering and moth-circled. He passed under the blinking yellow light strung overhead, and the motel emerged on his right, glowing under the crooked vacancy sign.